On this episode, Dude and Brett open up 4 different Elijah Craig expressions, 1 private barrel 94 proof, a standard barrel proof offering, and 2 club private barrel proofs from Bourbon Enthusiast and Mash and Journey private barrel clubs. Find out what they were and how they rank on this episode of The Bourbon Hunters. But before we get started, do you like our podcast? Do you like bourbon gear? Visit our website at www.bourbonhunters.com to check out our bourbon shirts and to buy a Bourbon Hunter Kinsey dram. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on our hunt for great bourbon. Reward yourself and sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet, and enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Bourbon Hunters. I'm Duke Poole. I'm joined by
Brett Ryan.
And today we are going to do some Elijah Craig private barrels. But to start with, we're going to dive into one of my, the real reason is I've got like 3 bottles of it. But it actually is one of my favorite of the Elijah Craig barrel proofs. And it's the C920. So it's back from 2020, and it's the 3rd release of that year.
COVID batch.
Yeah, I guess it would be, wouldn't it? And it's 132.8 proof. So we're actually going to start at a higher proof than the next 2. But the 2 after this are actually, it's kind of continuation of last episode where we did some barrel picks from Luxureau between Mash and Journey and Bourbon Enthusiast. So doing the same thing again today. It'll be a Mash and Drum and then or Mash and Journey, I should say, and then a Bourbon Enthusiast pick. And I don't know that we'll necessarily put them against each other, but I'm sure we'll rank them somehow. So
I just noticed looking at these 2, I thought Elijah Craig used a lot of like generic bottles, but that actually says, barrel proof and single barrel on the glass.
Yeah, I mean, the bottles are very
like generic,
generic and similar, but they've got embossing that say like 1789 on them, and they're nice bottles. I mean, they're definitely recognizable bottles because I think they're. I only really think I see them from Elijah Craig, but they're generic and like I know what you mean by that.
Like the shape of them is generic throughout kind of their line because like they're regular small batch, which is an underrated bourbon in my opinion because it's a shelfer.
It's cheap and it's not. I mean, it's not hard to get. It's cheap and it actually tastes good.
That was Ellen's favorite for a long time.
Yeah, it was till she got COVID actually.
And then
it changed her taste buds, and now I think she's coming back to it slowly. But for about a year, she didn't like it after she had COVID.
She should sue COVID.
She should sue COVID. Those COVID people. All right, so let's pour out some Elijah Craig barrel proof, and then I'll get into my shenanigans from last night, I guess.
Yeah,
and you can talk about New Orleans.
Yeah, I haven't been on the show for a couple weeks, so glad to be back.
Yeah, for sure. Glad to have you back even for it. You're leaving, so I want you to be comfortable with your pours.
I'll survive either way.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they don't do BJJ once in a while after drinking bourbon. So.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a scenario thing, right? Like, what if I've had a couple drinks?
Right.
Someone's trying to wrestle with me in the bar. I did a heavier pour than you it looks like.
You did.
It'll be fine.
I'm disappointed in myself here.
Well, there's more in the bottle. You can always top it back off.
And I've got 2 more in backup, so it's fine. So this is the C920 Elijah Craig barrel proof. So I love Elijah Craig barrel proof, first off. It's one of my favorite when I can get them. I have not gotten any from this year, and I don't think I was able to get any last year. Maybe I
feel like last year we got some Larceny barrel proofs.
I got Larceny C. I got 2 of those.
I have 2 different ones No, I have a C and then maybe a B.
I think you got the same C I did.
I did.
On our trip, I think.
Yes, but I ordered it online.
Oh.
And then I was able to get that other one from Tyler. And I don't know if it was a B because I didn't have. That was my first Larceny barrel proof.
Gotcha. So
I'll have to check when I get home.
The C922 Larceny barrel proof. And the difference between the Larceny and the Elijah Craig is the Elijah Craig is the rye-based bourbon from Heaven Hill. And Larceny is their wheated-based bourbon. So same mash bill as like Old Fitz and stuff like that. And then their regular Larceny, shelfers. Same thing with Elijah Craig. It's the same mash bill as their regular Elijah Craig offering, but this is the barrel-proof version. And then the 2 we'll be doing after this are private barrels, which means they were selected from a single barrel out of the Heaven Hill distillery. So,
and I had a single barrel. It came from the Bourbon Enthusiast. It was an Elijah Craig like single barrel that was a non-barrel proof.
Yeah, you know what?
He hasn't done one of those in a long time.
Should I get that and we start with that first?
If you want, I don't care, but it was really good.
Because I mean, honestly, that is I have that one. I probably have multiples of his because he's had multiple releases actually.
It's been a while, I feel like, since he's had one of those.
Let me get that real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm back. So I went and grabbed a Bourbon Enthusiast barrel pick from a regular Elijah Craig 94 barrel. So I guess, I mean, it's the same thing. They just proofed it down to 94.
Yeah.
I don't think they were doing private barrels at the time of barrel strength. So.
And this one was kind of confusing because the inscription on it says small batch, but it's actually a single barrel.
Yeah.
So it's a little like where I said I hadn't seen where these actually say single barrel. I know
they probably hadn't updated their stuff when they were doing these,
Yeah.
if I had to guess. I mean, that would be my guess anyway. But yeah, so this is a single barrel. It is from Elijah Craig. It is 94 proof, and it's from Rickhouse EE and 6th floor. And I don't know that this one actually has the age disclosed on it. I know the other ones we are doing do. Yeah, no age listed on here. But the other ones we have will have an age statement. So, all right, let's go ahead and nose this. And this is, it does taste like Elijah Craig, if I remember correctly. It just has a little bit of a unique kind of flavor bomb to it.
The nose is like a classic bourbon, is how I feel. Like it's the classic, like vanilla, caramel.
Maybe some brown sugar.
Yeah, it's a very, again, like traditional classic bourbon when I smell this.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to, we're using little small glasses. I'm trying not to shove my nose in there and get it overwhelmed right away. But so first drink of the day. All right. I mean, it's good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it. It is like you said, I think it continues on that traditional kind of bourbon flavor. A little bit of nuttiness to it, like a dustiness almost. Vanilla for sure. Let me go back and get some more nose. And
yeah, it's lots of vanilla and lots of caramel.
I almost get like a butteriness to the nose as well.
That was my first drink too, so my palate has not acclimated itself.
Definitely finishes with. It almost tastes like it's got some age to it. A little bit of leather, a little bit of oak.
Oh, there that comes in that second drink. Yeah,
yeah.
The age,
and then it actually has a nice hug for
a 94 proof. Yeah,
it
agreed.
Actually finishes pretty well. I'd say a medium finish for a 94. Pretty good. I mean, I need to come back to the regular Elijah Craig 94. And 94 is nice. I like pretty much anything above 90.
Yeah.
90 to 110 is an easy sipper to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like Antique 107. I know that's not your favorite, but like other things, you like Maker's 101, any bottled and bond, anything like that. It's right around my
anything bottled and bond is always good. Well, usually good.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, generally speaking, it's at least 4 years old, so you've got that going for you, which is nice. Yeah, this is good. I'm glad you brought that up because I had thought about that earlier today, then I forgot about it.
Yeah, it's sitting in my I have like an upstairs cabinet of things that I drink like routinely, and then like things I'm not drinking go in the basement, and I'll kind of like rotate through stuff.
Yeah.
And this Elijah Craig is sitting up in the cabinet upstairs, which is why it was on my mind.
So, have you had it recently?
No, but I started to grab a pour of it the other day, and then I saw I had a toasted barrel Elijah Craig sitting in front of it.
Squirrel.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I haven't had this in a while. And plus, it's kind of getting to the bottom, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to get rid of some anchors, and I just picked up another toasted barrel on our trip.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll go ahead and try and polish this one off, and then I have my backup and start rotating through some other stuff.
I've got 2 toasted barrels right now, too. One of them's like half empty. I need to visit that a little more often because I love their toasted barrel.
Oh, my God, their toasted barrel's so good. I've always wondered if, like, you could almost do your own toasted barrel with, like, those, like, little mini barrels. If you could somehow, like, just lightly toast it and then pour, like, a bottle of Elijah Craig in there and try and create your own toasted barrel.
The problem is I believe a toasted barrel is charred. However, before they char it, they toast it. And so I don't know that you could do that unless it was a specifically toasted barrel.
Yeah, and maybe you can order them toasted. I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I've never looked for that.
We should, you know what we should do is buy a whole bunch of Elijah Craig 94s and then see if we can get Middle West Spirits to toast us a barrel, like a 30-gallon barrel.
Yeah.
And
it would take a lot to fill up a 30-gallon barrel.
I know it would. Right. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, and then just buy a whole bunch of them and throw them in there and let them sit for, you know, however many months, like 2 months or something, and then pull it out and see what happens.
And you're like, and we wasted 30 gallons of bourbon.
You know what? I don't think we'd waste it.
I think it would still be good. I do.
So, all right. So what's your overall on this so far?
I mean, I love this. You know, like I said earlier, I have this in the cabinet. I visit it not a ton because I like it so much.
Yeah.
And I know when this is gone, it's gone.
When it's gone, it's gone.
But this is just such an easy drinker. It has just the right amount of hug, great flavor.
All right. I'm going to start nosing this barrel proof. I talked about it already, but yeah, it's the C920 COVID release.
COVID batch.
Yeah. And already, I mean, immediately the nose is jumping out at me. I mean, it's pretty significant.
Do you mean the proof or just the aroma of the nose?
I think there's just a lot of aroma coming out of it. I mean, the proof's, you know, definitely getting a little tingle in the nose there, but
honestly, the proof isn't, for me, it isn't burning out my nose.
That's what I mean. I'm getting a little tingle. I'm
surprised.
It's more just, I'm getting a lot of, like, aroma.
I mean, at 132, I would have thought this would have, like, burnt out my nose, like smelling like rubbing alcohol or something, and it doesn't.
Sure.
And there's, man, what can I not? I think it's the peanut I'm picking up on. There's something in there.
For sure. There's something like that, like a nuttiness, maybe walnut or something, but yeah, definitely peanut. Or definitely a nut, I should say.
Some kind of tree nut.
some kind of nut. But this one is 12 years old. And so when they say 12 years old, the barrel proofs are actually batched from a group of barrels. So when it says 12 years old, you might have something older
like
in
15,
there.
Yeah, it's possible.
It could be a 13, a 14. There could be, you know, a mixture. And generally speaking, nothing, I mean, by law, because they put an age statement on there, nothing can be younger than what it says.
And if you go by that whole like $10 per year, I mean, this is a steal. It's not $120 for a bottle of this.
Right. Well, you've got two things. I mean, it's 12 years old at least. So right there, that alone, $120. But it's also barrel proof. So you're getting a double whammy, and it's like a $75 bottle, $70 bottle.
I mean, think about, if you're not one that likes a higher proof thing, think about how much you could water that down to like a 1 teens or something just by doing little, you know, individual splashes.
132.8 proof. So, I mean, you got some room to wiggle there.
And then there's people that are going ape shit over Weller 12 year for $400 on the secondary.
Yeah. And
here's another 12 year bourbon.
And it's only 114 proof, or something like that. I think a 114. So, I mean, not that that's bad, but this is, like just as good, if not better. I mean, if you like Weeders, you're not going to.
Yeah,
you'd prefer the Weller, but like for the price, you just can't go wrong. I mean,
agree.
There's really not much secondary for these, which is nice. I mean, they might have a markup of like 85 or something in a secondary.
But they're usually less than 100. Yeah. Every time I've seen one, they're
I don't know that
I've
ever seen one for more. Yeah.
All right, I'm going in.
Yep, go for it.
The proof is there, but
it's not overwhelming.
It is not overwhelming for 132.
And I get a lot of flavor, actually.
I do too.
I almost get a little bit of cherry, I feel like. And then there's, you know, the vanilla's there.
There's maybe, I don't know if I can pick out cherry. It might be more dark fruit for me.
That may be what it is. And whenever I say cherry, it's never maraschino. It's always like a Luxardo or something like that.
When I don't eat cherry enough to like maybe sometimes single it out, like the only time
I have started putting Luxardos in my
old fashions,
but then I eat them at the end.
Same. That's what I was going to say. The only time I eat a cherry is when it's in an old fashioned, which brings me to my next thing that I was going to talk about real quick. So I just got back from New Orleans, and whenever I'm on vacation and stuff, I always get like mixed cocktails, like all the time. Like if I'm around here, depending on what I'm doing, I'll get beer and just, I don't know, it just depends on where I am.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm at Joe's bar, I'm getting a beer. I'm not getting a cocktail because they're not going to be very good. But in a bigger city, right?
Yeah.
Better cocktails. So I had a couple old fashions at a few different places, and then I saw a Sazerac, which, they're known for Sazeracs down there in New Orleans. I think I have a new favorite cocktail is a Sazerac.
And you got the card, right?
I got the card because I took a tour of the Sazerac house.
Maybe we should have, pretty sure it's Jeff that likes to make them. It could be Ronald. But anyway, we should have one of them come make their Sazerac. Someone supposedly, I'm pretty sure Jeff makes them. So someone makes them supposedly pretty well. At least they claim to. So I think we should have them on, make us Sazeracs, and sit out on the back patio. And
absolutely. And I have if someone doesn't have that special like Pashad's bitters or whatever it's called, I picked up a bottle of that while I was there at the Sazerac house.
Yeah.
There's that other kind of liqueur, like Herb Saint, I think is what it's called.
That's the one I think that's tough to find.
They had it for sale at the Sazerac house.
Right, but I think around here it's tough to find.
Yeah, but I was afraid I couldn't get it home without it breaking.
Yeah.
And I wasn't smart enough to bring like a bottle bag or something like that to get it home.
Well, and you would have had to have checked your bag if you did.
Yeah.
Which is another thing, which is fine if you know that, on your way.
Advance,
if you're going home, checking a bag's not nearly as bad as checking a bag going somewhere, because if it gets lost for a few days, you got home.
Then you're fucked.
Oh, but you're home, so no big
That's what I meant, like going there, right?
Yeah, right. So on the way home, I am more willing to check a bag just because I know, if I can bring home some bottles, it's fine with me. And I generally try to leave extra space in my bag if I'm,
Oh, yeah. I usually...
just in case.
I'm not one that's going to pack, 50 pounds is the limit in your suitcase. I never have 50 pounds of, clothes and shoes and, never...
Well, I mean, I don't
issue.
even know that you can get 50 pounds in a carry-on.
Oh, no. I meant like a checked bag.
Yeah, right. My wife will. Shoes alone.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, that's women.
So we were on our way to Mexico last year, and she had to take stuff out of her bag, put it in my bag.
Because it was overweight.
Because it was over the weight.
Jeez.
And in fact, that was only on the way home, because on the way there, it was like 60 pounds. And the lady, and mine was like 40.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady was like, here, but on the way home, they may not let you, so just make sure you distribute it better.
Out, yeah.
And so she on the way home, she put 10 pounds of stuff in my bag, and we actually were perfect on the way home.
That's hilarious.
Plus, I had her put a couple heavier things in her carry-on.
Yeah.
Just to make sure. But yeah, we were both under, actually. It was like 49 and 48 or something on the way back home. So, but yeah, that always cracks me up. So you like the Sazerac, huh?
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about that Sazerac drink was there's no ice in it. So when they're making it, the one guy did a cool thing where it was almost like he made a glass of ice water in my rocks glass and just let it sit and chill while he mixed the drink. Mm-hmm. Then he dumps the ice.
So he chilled the glass.
He chilled the glass
with ice water.
Yes,
that's a good idea.
And then he dumps it out and then pours the Sazerac into it.
But when he mixes the Sazerac, it's chilled, right?
I don't think I saw him put ice in that. I didn't.
Okay. So he just put it into a chilled glass.
Correct. He used like a normal tumbler thing.
But didn't chill the actual cocktail.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, because sometimes, you get to talking to people and everything. And when I'm on vacation, I can talk to any stranger as long as, I can just chat up anybody.
Right.
And so you find yourself in those scenarios just talking. And it was a work thing, so there's lots of people there that I'm talking with, And so you don't worry about your drink watering down.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that I really liked. Because, I'm not one that likes a watered down old fashioned.
Yeah, no, when the ice starts melting, it's definitely noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
And I can usually tell when I go order an old fashioned somewhere, if it's going to be a good old fashioned, the first thing is it's not going to be a good old fashioned if they put it on regular ice.
Right. It needs to be an ice ball that's going to melt a lot
slower. An ice ball or
slower.
a big square or something. And it's funny because as soon as I see them put it in something that's not like that, I'm like, okay.
I got to chug this because it's going to get watered down and I'm not going to like it.
And it's funny because I went to a place here in Hilliard Saturday in the afternoon,
mm-hmm.
and it was Hill Garden. And
I haven't been there yet.
It's good. Their sausages are really good, man. They do this one that has like a balsamic drizzle over it.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's like a glazed balsamic drizzle. It's really good. But their sausages are really good. They have a homemade mac and cheese, which is pretty good.
Oh,
and then they have a homemade German potato salad, which is really good. Oh. But anyway, so I ordered their old fashioned. And first thing I noticed, maraschino cherry. I was like, you can't put a maraschino cherry.
Gotta use
in
Luxardo.
It's just not the same. You can immediately tell.
Yeah.
And then it had cubes of ice instead of a block, and I was like, and it's funny because it actually would have tasted okay otherwise, I think. But we were sitting out there, and it was a 50-degree day, so we sat by the fire pit, and it just melted really quick. And so by the time I was done, it really was like nothing. And I'm like,
yeah, and the flavor's all gone at that point, and.
So that's the biggest complaint I had. I think it would have been good had it been over a cube and had a Luxardo cherry, but it just Yeah, whatever.
And that Sazerac was refreshing. There's some lemon in it. They do like a lemon rind as opposed to an orange rind.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, there's just something about this that's just refreshing. I could drink that in the summer with it being kind of hot because of that lemon.
Yeah.
And being more refreshing.
That's cool. I'll have to try one of those. I've never had one of those before.
That was my first time, I'll be honest. And, I wasn't sure, like, I don't know, whatever, I'll try one.
Yeah.
And then it was like the rest of the trip, every time I'm like, Sazerac.
That's good. So what would you say? What do you think about this? I mean, it's a barrel proof. It's the regular release. It's not a private barrel. So it's what you would normally get if you, well, not normally get, but, it's what anyone who found this on a shelf was getting. It was batched, as a group of barrels mixed together and released as the C920 from 2020.
I would say this isn't everyone's cup of tea because of the proof, but I would also say it's dangerous because it doesn't taste anywhere near the proof.
Yeah.
Someone with like a virgin palate, for lack of a better phrase, it might be a little too much for them.
Yeah.
But I also think this could be dangerous because it doesn't bother me, and I could drink multiple of these and be sleeping on the couch downstairs.
I've had a few nights where I've had multiples of these and did not end up on the couch, but I did sleep well. All right, so we've been through a single barrel Elijah Craig regular proof, 94. We've been through a batched barrel proof, normal release at 132.8. And so now we're going to go into, this is Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. This is 8 years old. It's a single barrel, and it's barrel proof. And so the proof on this one is 127.7. And this came out, last year?
I think so.
2022. And this is called Going 96 and a 70. And if I remember correctly, their story behind this was one of the guys, I think it was, Dustin, or Bobby and Dustin, I guess. They were flying down to get there in time, and they were running behind, and they got pulled over and got a ticket.
Oh, that's funny.
And so they were going 96 and a 70.
I didn't know that story.
Like, I thought that high over the speed limit was immediately, like,
they can do reckless...
loss of license or something like that.
They can do, like, reckless op, I think, or reckless endangerment, one of the two, and can, like, impound your car and, like, arrest you if they want. I think it's like at the discretion
of the police officer.
Yeah, which obviously I'm not an attorney or anything, but that's what I have been led to believe. Yeah.
Well, I've got mine poured. I'm waiting on you to finish.
I'll be there in just uno momento.
C920. Sorry, C920. So,
what am I seeing? No, I'm kidding.
The B520 is one of my favorites as well. Could have brought that out, but I think I'm on to my last one of that.
I have an A 120 or 121 or something.
I have both of those, I think. A120 and 121.
It's really good. It's it's like 118 if I remember.
I know a lot of people
it's really good.
Say that the batches have a different profile based on the letter. So like people say, yeah, I love the A batches.
Okay.
And then the B batches. But I don't know how true that is. I don't know that I've ever put them against each other like that to see if I figured that out. And then also, I know that there was a space of time, maybe a year and a half, where the batches that they released were not that high in proof. And I think there was like a semi, irritation around the bourbon industry or bourbon enthusiast world where, people were upset.
Were they proofing them down or just selecting barrels with a lower proof?
I don't think they were proofed down.
Okay.
I think that's just how it is sometimes, depending on where they pick them from the warehouse and stuff like that. I think it just happens. All right, so the nose on this, and this again is the Mash and Journey one. So it's a combination of Mash and Drum and My Bourbon Journey. They have a whiskey club.
I get a lot of cherry on this one. I don't know about you.
On the nose, I do. Definitely get cherry.
That was the first thing that like popped right out to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. When I reset the schnoz.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm still tagging you with the People Schnoz.
Are you really? I just have too much.
If you ever log into your People Schnoz account, you'll see how many times you've been tagged.
That's hilarious. I mean, I haven't even posted on our Bourbon Hunters account.
No one has except for me, and I haven't been doing it because of all the stuff I've had going on.
Yeah.
So speaking of which,
anytime I even cash a bottle, I need to just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you should.
I really need to.
Just take a picture at least.
That's what I'm saying. I need to just like take a picture and post.
Yeah. So last night we were supposed to record. In fact, you even came over, and my plumber, who was coming to do the plumbing work from our
Christmas event.
Yeah, Christmas Eve burst pipe. He was supposed to be here at 2 p.m. Didn't show up till almost 6.
It's like the cable people.
And that's what I was texting one of my neighbors about. He was, and then because I live in a condo, I had to let the people know because we had to shut down the water to the entire the entire building, not just my unit, because he was actually replacing my main shutoff valve in my condo, because that's one of the problems we had that night is I couldn't get it shut off. Mm-hmm. It was an old PVC ball joint, and it was going to break if I torqued it any harder. So he replaced that and replaced some spots in the where it burst with some with PEX
on the main floor.
On the main floor, and he did it back here too, like where the shut off valve is. There's PEX there now, but yeah, he didn't even show up till 6, and then my neighbor decides they don't want to answer the door. The neighbor that had the shut off valve to the whole building.
Is it in their basement?
Yeah,
the main shut off.
In their basement.
Okay,
it's right there.
Okay.
And if you look right there, you can see the feed line goes this way.
Yeah.
So it's going through all of our condos, across all of them. But it comes in the middle unit, which is weird. Everyone was thinking it was going to be an end unit.
Yeah, I would have assumed.
But it was sitting in the middle unit, and it just had its water meter and everything right there. So, but anyway, he didn't leave till about, like 9:30 last night?
Yeah, I think that's what you said was 9:30.
So it took him about 3.5 hours because he kept the CPVC that he's replacing is just brittle and shitty. And once it starts to crack and break, it just becomes terrible. Yeah. And so he ended up replacing all the way up to my son's sink. Instead of just replacing where the pipe had burst, he fed a whole line all the way up to my son's bathroom sink.
Damn.
And that's what took him so long, because he had to drill a hole and do some stuff and remove some drywall and stuff like that. But that's done. So now I can actually move on to the rest of the, fixing of the house. So that was a shitty experience,
Yeah, no.
It really was. Not just the plumber, but the burst pipe.
Yeah.
Because, our pipe burst and then we couldn't shut off the water. So it just kept pouring out.
Sidebar, plumbing is a good trade to go into for anyone looking for a trade.
Honestly, if you have a kid right now,
it is an amazing trade.
They're interested in working with their hands. I mean, and not just plumbing, but welding, plumbing. I mean, electrical. Yeah. Like, honestly, you could probably, because there's a lack of that stuff. There's the Great Resignation is happening right now. All the baby boomers are retiring, plus a lot of people after COVID.
The Great Resignation. I haven't heard that yet, but it's very accurate.
So that's what we call it. I mean, we're dealing with that with my regular job, my 9-to-5 job. So our technology is meant to help during the Great Resignation to have, pass on that, that knowledge share that might be retiring. So like all these experts, they're dwindling, people that have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. And so as they retire, that information's retiring with them. Yeah. And so we're losing plumbers, electricians, all those trades workers right now because everyone thinks they have to go to college.
My brother-in-law is a classic example where he owns a body shop and he can't find workers. Yeah. Because no one's going into auto body work. Yeah. And so he started reaching out. I'm from Southern Ohio. There's a vocational school, which it's kind of funny. When I was a kid, like sometimes we looked at the vocational school like kind of taboo. And
I mean, I did growing up because it was at that time when everyone started going to college.
And they were doing this big college push. But looking like back, oh my God, that vocational school was fantastic. I have a friend that went through their to be a journeyman, right, to work on the power lines, and they do have an auto body. So long story short, he's reached out to them, and then he now has like one student per, I don't know if they're on cement, I don't know what they're on in there, like, but there's one student that comes over and does like apprentice work basically, and like he teaches them things and learns, and then like he can kind of be like, oh, maybe I'll hire you, or oh, I'm not going to hire you, like interviewing for a job in a way.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's kind of what those are meant to do. Anyway. Your time on the job is, especially during an internship or whatever.
It's a long-term interview.
It is. You're going to show up or you're not going to show up. You're going to do good work. You're not going to do good work. But you're basically, like you said, you're interviewing for the job. And that's just how it works. I mean, the problem is right now is no one is going into those fields. And the ones that are being able to command a decent amount of money.
Yeah. And they make their own hours. They're like, I'm not working today.
Yeah. But, you know, I'll tell you, and I'm seeing it in the contract world too, like trying to get someone out here to do my repairs. Yeah. I mean, even the guy that has done the previous work here before, I've had 2 different contractors that have come here to do stuff from my kitchen remodel, my bathroom remodel, my flooring, my basement remodel, and then my fireplace. All of those things were done by contractors, 2 different contractors, and both of them, one of them basically ghosted me. He gave me a quote, and then he has not returned a call. And I'm like, it's a $30,000 quote. And I'm like, I would love to just be able to turn down a $30,000 job.
I know.
And then the other guy who didn't give me a quote, I just asked because I wasn't getting responses from people. I was like, hey, he's like, man, I wouldn't be able to get to you until probably September.
Wow.
And I'm like, geez, are you kidding me? He's like, he goes, no, it's nuts. He said, for one, all of my jobs are taking twice as long because I don't have people to help me.
So he's doing all the work himself.
Well, it's instead of a group
of it.
Yeah, instead of a group of like 6 or 7, it's a group of like 3.
Yeah.
And so they're basically doing all the work with half the amount of people. So I don't know. It's crazy right now because my son's at that point, and I keep telling him, like, listen, if you want to do something, do a trade.
Go into a trade, yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, you learn a lot in college. You do. You really do.
Yeah.
Just from the liberal arts side of things, you learn history, you learn, sciences. Even if you're not going into those fields, you learn some well-rounded content.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And that's great. I think it's awesome when people the way they do that. However, the amount of money you have to pay right now for college is just absurd.
Yeah, here, spend $80,000 to get a job where you make $20 an hour. You know what I mean? Like that's
that's
happening,
and you're lucky if you get out with $80,000 in debt.
I see that on our main hospital campus all the time. We have people that go through 4 years of college or maybe even 5 to get a bachelor's degree, tons of money in debt, and they're like they call them like patient access coordinator, which is a fancy way for like a scheduler.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like, I feel terrible.
Yeah. One of my friends is that position at the cancer hospital.
Yeah, the James.
And she just did an associate's degree, but that was 20-some years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 30 years ago. And so she has 2 years at a community college to get her associate's degree, and so she probably has 0 debt.
Right.
But now, like, to compete, you almost have to have a 4-year degree to get that job.
It's unfortunate.
It's absurd. It's crazy. All right, let's dive into
Barrel
this.
proof.
I haven't had a taste of this yet.
I've been smelling it, though.
So this is 127 proof. I think it was 127.3, right?
127.7.
127.7, sorry. So the cherry hit me as soon as it hit the tongue. And then it basically evolves to some vanilla for me. And then on the back, it's got a medium finish, nothing crazy, but a good finish.
What is in there? Cherry's very apparent.
It's almost like as soon as it hit my tongue, that's what I got. Is that what you like? Is that how it hit you?
It kind of hit it in the back too. The cherry, did. But there's like a nougat, maybe. I don't know. There's something in there.
I don't know that I know what nougat tastes like.
I don't either, but it just
sounds good.
It just sounds appropriate. Yeah.
I mean, I've had candy bars with nougat in it, but I don't know that I would ever be able to place nougat.
I haven't had a Snickers bar in like 5 years, maybe longer than that. I don't know.
Snickers usually around not Easter, Halloween every year.
You know what? That's a lie. Maybe Halloween, the mini ones.
Yeah.
I would say I've had a couple.
The minis aren't nearly as good as a full-size Snickers because the ratios are wrong.
I believe that.
But
it's like a mini Reese's versus a full Reese's.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But there's something in the Snickers that's
I'm so glad you said Reese's.
And not
I cannot stand when people say Reese's.
Oh, Reese's? Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not Reese's, it's Reese's.
Reese's, yeah.
And it's so
Reese's peanut butter cup.
Reese's sounds too much like feces to me. It's just like when someone says hamburger instead of hamburger. I'm like, shut the fuck up around me with that hamburger shit because I will not eat it. Like that is disgusting.
Right. You want to get a booger?
A hamburger. God. So anyway, PSA.
Oh, that's fantastic, though.
Yeah. So, but
But something that's in the middle of a Snickers. It's not the caramel. It's not the peanuts. I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's the combination of all of them blended together.
Yeah.
There's something like, obviously, with minus the chocolate is what I'm tasting.
Well, I mean, if you get nut and you get caramel, you're halfway to a Snickers right there.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I don't know that I would say nougat. I have no idea, but I'm getting that kind of a snickery kind of vibe to it. So I would have never described it that way until you said it. But yeah, I get that.
And then
I get that.
just then a hint of baking spice too.
In the finish or where?
In the finish.
Yeah.
Just a hint of it.
Yeah, me too. Like it's definitely lingering in my chest in a good way. Like I'm getting a nice warm burn.
But it's not refluxy.
No, I'm not thinking I'm about to burp something up.
You ever get that where it's like...
Yeah. No, I have.
You reflux and you start to salivate.
Yeah, right. No, it's just a warm burn. It's nice. I like this.
I do too.
I'm interested to see how this stands up to what we had, because we had a little bit of this next one yesterday.
We did.
We thought we were going to have this yesterday.
I like this better than the previous barrel proof that we just had.
Oh, you do?
The C920. I do.
Okay. All right. I mean, I could see that, like, especially if you put emphasis on like finish. This is hands down a great finish.
Yeah.
It's long and lingering. I've only had one drink and it's just still sitting there.
It's unique. It's complex.
What did were you here when Chris was here? What did he call that? That's the lengthy. Was it like the fire of, or?
I was here, but I'm trying to remember. He's your neighbor, Chris.
Yeah. The pilot. Yeah. What was it? What did he call it? It wasn't like dragon breath or something, was it?
God, I don't remember right
that's
now.
That's just bad breath, right?
I feel like it is.
The breath of the dragon, or he called it something. And
he's a funny guy.
No, yeah, he is. And I can't remember what he called it, but he had a phrase for the finish when it sits there and lingers in your chest and you're breathing it up. And that's what I'm getting with this. So from a finish perspective, this is easily my favorite. From a taste perspective, it's I'd say equivalent, if not, I don't know if I rank it better or worse than the C920, but it's up there. It's equivalent, even though it's only 8 years versus the 12 on the other. So, and it's 6 or 5 proof points slower.
Something else I just thought about my New Orleans trip that was cool. So there is the oldest bar in America, I think. I could be saying that wrong, but it dates back to the late 1700s. I swear to you, I think this was a bar, or not a bar. The building was built in like 1773, because I was like, holy shit, America wasn't a country even yet, right?
Right.
And so this, obviously, I think it started off as a blacksmith mill, or I don't know what you call, like a blacksmith shop, whatever. And then through the years, it's been converted and blah, blah, blah. But it's like a touristy attraction, and it was cool. Like, they're just doing like draft beers and bottled beers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was cool to go there, and it was a really busy place, and be like, wow, this is the oldest bar in America. Huh. And it was really popular.
So where I grew up in Belpre, Ohio, it was the second settlement in the Northwest Territory.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think, if I remember correctly, Marietta was the first, and we were the second. And they had the oldest library in the Northwest Territory.
That's cool.
Or the first, I should say, because it's no longer there. But the ruins of where it was, and it's honestly, the ruins of it are smaller than the room we're in right now.
Oh, this place was super tiny, and you thought the walls were going to like fall in on you. And you're like, let's get
that's
get
like
the fuck
when you
out of
go
here.
to Whiskey Row.
Yeah.
And like they leave the facade completely intact on the front. Mm-hmm. But then when you go inside, you can see they've added like steel
support like structure
to it, to the structure, because it was, I don't think they did anything but stack up bricks before.
Like, I don't think they knew.
I don't think they added any support to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
And if they did, it might have been wood that over the years either like, degraded or rotted,
weathered and all that,
rotted or caught fire.
And think about like termites, like all kinds of things can
Termites, fire. I mean, and back then fires happened all the time. So it's like, you'd have a tipped over oil lantern, or something or whatever.
So when I did the tour of the Sazerac house, they had this like mock rick house within the Sazerac house just to kind of show you how they're laid out.
Yeah.
But some of the wood that they used was from an actual rick house. It was like an old one that I don't know if they tore down, whatever, like those big beams. And one person that was with me, I was telling them, and I can't remember, you were with me, but we were in one of these old rick houses, and it could have been Lux Row. But you know how they have the plumb bobs to keep them all straight?
Yeah.
That guy told us that someone like pushed one of them. Do you remember that? We were in one of those rick houses that had
I remember the plumb bobs, yeah.
And it was a wooden one, and he was like, please don't touch them. We had someone one time that like pushed one of them, and they had to close the rick house for like 3 or 4 days.
Because
it kept swaying.
Yeah.
And then once it stopped swaying, and they had to bring in like an engineer to make sure everything was like still in spec after this guy moved it.
Yeah. I do vaguely remember that. I don't remember where we were. It might have been Lux Row.
For some reason, I felt like it was Lux Row, but I don't know why.
I'm trying to remember where I've seen the big plumb bobs.
Or maybe it was when we went to Stitzel Weller.
I think, you know what? I think it was.
Because those were some old rick houses in Stitzel Weller.
I think it was Stitzel Weller. Because the first time, it wasn't until the very last time that we actually did a tour in the rick house at Lux Row. And I don't know.
That's true, because we did the like in-house tour, but it didn't include.
But we didn't even go back into the rick house, really. We were just in that little welcome area of the rick house, if you remember, where you see all the fronts of the barrels.
Where people like they had those like ones that were all signed.
Yeah, and I actually have the picture of the rick house that we went into. Well, I think the ones that were all signed were at Jephthah Creed, weren't they? Oh no, you didn't go with us to Jephthah Creed.
No, we didn't.
So yeah, Lux Row probably had that too. All right, so you just finished the Mash and Journey.
I did.
So now we're moving on to the private barrel from Bourbon Enthusiast. It is also 8 years, and when Brett is done pouring, he can tell us what the proof of this
It was
is.
123.2.
123.2. This one just came in, and this was in the Deatsville location. So I guess that's a kind of a famous location for the Heaven Hill rick houses. I guess. I had never heard of that until they talked about it when we were there on site. But the tasting for this, I was on the pick for this one, and it was really fun. They gave you a tour, Heaven Hill, gave you the tour. The nice part about it was you walk across the road from the visitor center, you go out into their rick house field there, and the first rick house you walk to now has almost like a welcome area and like a nice place. That's where you do the tasting. So similar to like what we did at Old Forester, if you remember.
That's exactly what popped in my mind when you said that.
But Old Forester was like, 20 feet off the ground on some like weird like half floor. This was at the ground level of the rick. And remember when we went to into the Lux Row rick and you had that like big space and then all the barrel heads were facing you, and they were, so that's what this was like. But it was set up where they had like this pull down bar or a table.
Yeah, like folded down from the wall kind of.
It's like a Murphy
thing.
table, yeah. And then they had some bench or some chairs we pulled out and sat around, and they had 4 barrels sitting out, or 3 maybe, 3 or 4 barrels sitting out, and they went over, thieved straight out of the barrels right in front of you. Poured them into each of your...
That's cool that they like thieve from the barrel.
Yeah. Because some places, like when we went to Lux Row, they just had it sitting in already 200 milliliter bottles, basically.
Same with Old Forester. They had them in those 200 milliliter flasks, essentially, in my mind.
And so having them thieve it right there in front of you, you're getting it uncut, unfiltered. It's kind of neat. It's a neat experience to see. Because you don't... I mean, to be honest, you don't know what they've done to it if it's in the bottle already. So... it just adds to the experience, plus you're in a really cool, glass front rick house that you can see out onto the out onto the grounds. You've got behind you, or kind of depending on which direction you're facing, in front of you, all these, barrel heads just stacked, upon your barrels actually, but you're seeing the barrel heads. But they're stacked,
they have huge grounds there.
Yeah,
the
like
grounds
50, 60 feet high. And so it was pretty cool. The experience was really nice. And then, you go through, and James does a really good job of not really voicing his opinion at first. Lets everyone else kind of talk about them, take their notes, and then we go through and compare which ones we think are the best, and we have almost like a taste off. And if there's a big discrepancy between people's opinions, they'll take it away and they'll do a blind.
Oh, that's cool.
And then that way no one's attached to their pick. But we didn't have to do that. I think everyone selected this one.
I like that he lets other people, which I
didn't
notice
James,
this. With the Old Forester one.
Right.
I didn't notice it, but now that you pointed out, I do. That it's nice that people aren't like piggybacking off of his idea, right? And that he does it that way.
Because he has a really good palate.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys that has a palate. He can pinpoint flavors like nothing, but he also has a good job of like tying them to something else, like a candy bar like you did, or a cereal or something like that. But he has a really good palate. He picks stuff up, kind of like Jason does from Mash and Drum. But it's just nice to watch him work. But then when he just lets the guests that he invites kind of guide and if he completely disagrees, he might override them. But I've never been with him when that's had to happen. We pretty much, and I think most of the people stick with him because their palates align with his.
Absolutely.
So
similar. Yeah.
we almost every time I've been on a pick with him, for the most part, we've almost all agreed. So there's only been like one dissenter in a couple of the picks, and then when we do the blind, it almost ends up becoming, oh, okay, yeah, we all agree. So and it's pretty funny because almost every time that's ever happened, it's gone to what he had picked.
Yeah.
And that was after the blind, So
Right.
like it was almost like, well, he knew what he was talking about. So, all right, let's nose this.
So I'm trying to take my bias out of having this from yesterday, but I still smell peanut.
Well, I finished with Henry McKenna last night.
Oh, that's such a good one, man.
So I don't even remember what this tastes like, to be honest, because it was 2 quick drinks, and then I went to Henry McKenna.
I have one of those I'm about to polish off too, because I just got it back up when we went on our trip.
Yeah, I've got 2 in backup, laying in wait.
Yeah. Anytime
And,
I see Henry McKenna, I will grab one every time because you don't see him a lot.
No, you don't. Not anymore. We used to see him once in a while here in Ohio, but I don't remember the last time I saw one in Ohio.
And the last time I saw one, there was a time, and it's been a couple years ago, that I would go to Arena Wine and Spirits like every, I don't know if it was like Wednesday when they got their drops, and they had one sitting out up at the counter, and I was like, cool. When I took one, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go the next day. They still had it sitting out there, and I was like, I'm going to take another one.
It's funny. That surprises me that it lasted that long.
I know.
Unless they got like 3 cases or something.
Maybe. I haven't been to Arena Wine and Spirits, though, in a long time.
Well, I've heard they piss off a lot of people because they don't put their stuff out. Like, they'll put out one thing.
Yeah.
Because I guess people go there because they know what day it is, and they'll just kind of, lurk around act like they're shopping, but just waiting for them to put something out.
To put their stuff
and
out.
they'll be there for like an hour.
That is annoying.
Yeah, but what's more annoying? Just put it out. Who cares? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Like, just sell it.
Agree.
When you get it, and it's just make it 10 o'clock every day. Who cares if you have lines? If you have lines, that means people are coming to your store.
Mm-hmm. And you're making money.
I don't get the pompousness of the people working there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to make money. Sell your shit.
Right.
Like, what are you holding out for?
Because you're going to sell it regardless, so you're going to sell it like now or later.
Right. You'll sell it now if you just put it on the counter.
Right.
All right. Nose this. What do you think?
I'm still getting that same peanut.
Yeah.
From last night.
That was the thing that hit me right away. It was the peanut last night. And it was like a little dusty kind of peanut type of smell.
I'm curious if the taste is still...
Well, now that we've had all this other stuff before, wow. I feel like there's a lot of complexity there.
Man.
It all hit me at the same time, and I don't know how to sort through it yet. I'm going to have to take a couple drinks.
This is still has a lot of that like nut profile. It is really good. This is, God, I hate to pick favorites, and we said we were going to rank these, but I still like this the best.
Yeah.
Out of everything we've had, this is still...
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a ton of complexity that hit my tongue on this one as soon as it hit my tongue.
Absolutely.
I'm still sorting through it, I think, and I don't know what I'm tasting yet. But there's a lot there, so that's nice. And I like that. I've talked about this on a few shows, probably ad nauseum. But
This one is complex. I agree with you.
When there's complexity there, like I feel like the more complexity there is in a bourbon, the more I can sit with it throughout the night and just continue to drink it because I keep getting new notes.
It evolves. It's fun like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? See how it evolves. And then even as the bottle goes down and oxidizes, it kind of evolves in that way as well.
Well, and I wonder if you're sitting with it, does it actually evolve, or are your taste buds just kind of, okay, you've had this flavor for like 3 drinks in a row. Now I'm numb to that. So I'm now catching these other flavors.
That's very possible.
You know what I mean? Like with your nose, for example, if you fart,
it's true though.
You smell it for a minute and then it goes away, and then someone else walks in the room and they're like, "Oh my god!" And
right.
oh, you still smell that? Your nose gets used to that stuff. So
yeah, and everybody likes their own brand.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I'm not. Disappointed when I fart.
What was that? Austin Powers 2, where it's Fat Bastard. He's like, everyone likes their own brand.
Oh, yeah. God.
Those are still funny. Like, those are so old, but they
so
still
dumb.
hold up.
But you know why? Because
Mike Myers.
Well, Mike Myers, yes. But it's because he's fish out of water. And so no matter when you watch it, he's still fish out of water. Like, he's from the 60s. Coming to now. Mm-hmm. So it'll always hold up because it doesn't matter what generation watches it, they're getting a goofball from the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a period piece in a sense.
Agree.
Like Shawshank Redemption. That's why it stays good, because it's not meant to be nowadays. Even when they made it, it was meant to be back in the 50s, or whatever. And so still holds up. And
that's a good point.
And Morgan Freeman, I think that was like the birth of his narration.
Oh, I think so too. Absolutely.
And holy shit, one of the best narrators ever. And then from that point forward, like so many people tried to do narration voiceovers.
Speaking of narration, when I was in New Orleans, I was at a piano bar, and it was more of a like classic piano bar, not like playing.
Now, did they have a pianist on site?
There was a pianist on site.
Nice.
It wasn't a dueling piano bar, but this guy was playing more like, he wasn't taking requests. He was just like playing songs and having fun, and asking where people are from. And I said Columbus, and he was like, the man with the golden voice. I remember him. And I was like, do you remember him?
Yeah.
He had that.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, I forgot all about that guy that WNCI found him. He was homeless, I think, at the time.
He was, and then he ended up homeless again.
He did.
But they got him a job. Like, he was hired for narration stuff.
He had a great voice.
He did. His voice was ridiculous. Yeah. And then they cleaned him up. They got him a job. I guess he was doing well, and then he just kind of relapsed.
Fell off the wagon,
Yeah. But, I mean, he had his 15 minutes, though.
He did.
I mean, like, he had a chance.
I had forgotten all about him until that pianist said it. And I was like, holy shit.
That's funny. Yeah, because I hadn't thought about him either in a long time.
That's been several years ago.
But you say the man with the golden voice, and anyone from Columbus, at least,
knows exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
yep.
That's funny. Yeah, do they still have Dave and Jimmy? Is that still happening?
It's still a thing.
Is it?
The only reason I know is...
But they're syndicated now, right? Aren't they... Like, I know they still talk about Columbus, but I think I stopped listening to them when I started getting XM, but also because I think they tried to be a little less Columbus-centric because they were getting picked up by, like, Louisville and all these different places, I think.
They definitely are, but every day at, like, 5:58, because I go to work super fucking early, they do, like, a local news, and I listen to that local news and just try and get some, info about what's going on, because... yesterday there was a bunch of fucking traffic, and they were talking about all that, and I was like, oh, there's a shooting. Yeah, well, they talk about all of that, and so like I get the bulk of my news, and then I'll make this quick, but it gets depressing because they're like, there was a 12-year-old shot today, there was a 6-year-old shot today, and you're like, fuck, I'm gonna quit listening to this.
Yeah, there's something going on, man, with the world.
Yeah, there is, and that's why. So then I don't listen to as much anymore because of that. But
yeah. No, news is depressing. I mean, you can't stay detached from it, but it's depressing for sure.
It is.
You almost have to take it in small doses. That's why I choose to get all of my news from memes on social media.
I mean, honestly, there is a lot of news and memes.
Well, I mean,
and it leads into something. You're like, what's this? And you're like, oh, I get a lot on Reddit.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so I'm gonna go back to this now for a second drink, just because I was kind of letting my palate settle on.
What
is higher learning?
Oh, God, that's an old one.
What is it? What
it is?
I love that movie.
That's a great movie.
It is a good movie. And you know what's funny? Cole Hauser, who is hugely successful and popular right now on Yellowstone, was the skinhead. He was the skinhead leader in higher learning.
Yeah.
And that movie was so good, had so many people in it.
Is that like 92? Tyra Banks is in that?
I think it's like 94.
Okay.
And yeah, it had Ice Cube, had
Ice Cube, you're right.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Yes. I like Lawrence Fishburne.
And then it had Omar Epps, Tyra Banks. It had Christy Swanson.
Who was the guy that like joins the skinheads?
He is Michael Rappaport.
Yes, he had a show back in the day where he was like a dad.
Yeah.
Or something, and it was funny.
Yeah, it's I know what you're talking about.
I don't remember the name of it, but he was funny in that.
He was married to the girl on the show from Goonies.
Yes.
The one that was the nerd. Like, not the one that the guy was trying to get with, but the other one. That's who he was married to on that show. It's not Malcolm in the Middle, but it's something like that. But I know what you're talking about. And then, but there were so many people in that. Gosh, who else was in it guy-wise? Jeez.
There was a rapper in it.
Busta
Rhymes?
Yeah, Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes,
I was going to say
yes.
Ludacris, but it was Busta Rhymes. You're right.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine them in my mind.
And then who was one of the other skinheads? It wasn't Henry Rollins, but it was someone like him. He was in it. But that was, I mean, honestly, it was a good movie.
Yeah,
just
and it was
overall.
like an informative, like a...
Yeah, like it had a social narrative.
Yeah.
There was a social narrative to it. But it was entertaining as well.
Like social awareness type thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it was almost like you're taken from, I think, Christy Swanson. Oh, you know who else was in it? She is still, I think, so hot. Dark hair. She's the one that Christy Swanson has the lesbian encounter with.
Yeah. Oh,
I can't remember what her name is. She was in the original Hulk with Eric Bana.
Yeah, I don't know who she is.
Can't remember her name now.
I know who you're talking about.
Shoot.
I'm going to have to download this and watch it again.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
It's always on the movie channels. Like, it seems like HBO and Cinemax just like own the rights to it or something because it's always on there. And I love every time it's on, I have to watch it.
I love how Ice Cube went from like these like he wasn't a gangster, but you know what I mean?
No,
like,
he kind of was. He was in NWA.
Yeah, he was.
And then he split off from his own. Him and Dr. Dre kind of just did their own thing. And but even like, Good Day, like that was almost gangster rap-ish. That was like coming out of it.
But he went from that to like that RV movie on Disney.
No, but you know what? He was in Anaconda. He was in Higher Learning. He's honest to God. I don't want to, because he was a really good rapper.
He was, no,
but he's a good
actor. He is a great actor.
He's a great actor. I think he's a really good actor. Like, I've never watched him in a movie and not thought, why is this guy in this movie?
Yeah.
He's always done a good job.
His facial expressions are always on point.
Like in the Higher Learning, there's my favorite scene in that movie with Ice Cube anyway, is when they're sitting out in front of the building. And he's talking to Omar Epps, and he's basically telling Omar Epps how, like it's college is like the machine, like it takes us in, it spits us out type of thing, Yeah. And he's there on a track scholarship, and it's like they're using
He was on a track scholarship.
Omar Epps was.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
And that's how he met Tyra Banks. And so, he's basically telling him, hey, they're using you for your athleticism, use them for education type of thing. Kind of, like get out of them what they're getting out of you type of thing.
He talks about Frederick Douglass. I remember that.
And
he's like, what'd you know about Frederick Douglass?
And so Lawrence Fishburne's walking out of the building while they're sitting there, and him and Ice Cube, because Omar Epps and Lawrence Fishburne have basically a relationship throughout the movie where he's helping him write his paper and helping him through the class. And then but Ice Cube and him don't. But then Lawrence Fishburne walks out while he's talking to Omar Epps, and Ice Cube sees him. They have a little back and forth, and he walks off, and he goes, "Oh, did you?" He goes, "Oh, did you take his class?" He's like, "Yeah, I took it once or twice." It's pretty good. It's just a really well written dialogue, really thoughtful or thought provoking type movie. But it's just a good movie.
I like Lawrence Fishburne in that for some reason a lot. I do.
Lawrence Fishburne he's almost like the Morgan Freeman of the movie in the sense that he's the elder,
like wise
who's lived and is experiencing things, and he hands out these anecdotes, throughout the movie. And he plays that role really well.
I'm downloading that later today.
But I like that movie a lot. I think it's a good movie. I remember watching it. We would watch it all the time. And like when I lived with my roommates in college, we would watch it all the time. I mean, you know, and it was the what it is,
Yeah.
what it is, what is high, what is higher,
What is learning?
what is learning,
Yeah.
what is higher learning. That was a good movie. I'm sitting there smiling like ear to ear right now because
I know.
can
I want
see
to
it
go
in
back
my
and
head.
watch
I
it.
know, I can see
Absolutely,
in my
man.
head. That one and PCU.
Yeah, PCU.
PCU you cannot find anywhere. I have it. I have a legal copy of it on my computer. You can't find it on any streaming service.
I haven't seen PCU in a really, really long time.
Let me know. I can let you borrow my copy, but I had the DVD of it for the longest time, and I could never get like a Blu-ray of it because it never was released. And what's great about PCU is the soundtrack. The soundtrack for PCU is awesome.
I don't remember it.
It has George Clinton in it, and he has a song that he made specifically for that movie.
Oh, that's cool.
And you cannot find that song anywhere unless you find the soundtrack for PCU. And it's a great song. But he does Erotic City, the Prince song. You know, he does Erotic City. He does Stomp, which is a great song in the movie. And then, like, if you're ever hosting a party, Stomp is a great song to play. But that one you can't find unless you have the PCU soundtrack.
I had to look it up. It's 94 for PCU.
Yeah, 94 for PCU.
Yeah.
That's true. And I think Higher Learning was like 93 or 94 as well.
Sorry, I'm scrolling at pictures of PCU.
No, look up Higher Learning.
Because there's George Clinton right there.
And Jon Favreau's in that. So is Jeremy Piven.
Yes.
Jon Favreau is Gutter.
95 for Higher Learning.
Yeah, I thought it was around that time. So, and then Jon Favreau is Gutter. He's like out of shape. He's got dreads.
I like that guy for whatever reason.
And Gary Busey is the Frisbee.
Oh, God. Gary Busey's in that?
He's the Frisbee. Two roles for Gary Busey that I will always remember. PCU and Contact.
Okay. Oh, Contact.
He's the terrorist in Contact that blows up the first machine.
David Spade's in that? Why don't I
Yeah,
remember?
David Spade's the guy who's the.
God, why don't I remember?
He's
David
the head
Spade
of
in that?
He's the head of the Balls and Shaft.
Okay.
He's the one trying to take over the pit.
It's been.
He's the one that goes to the.
Oh, right here he is. Yeah.
He goes to the chancellor of the president of the university, and he's giving them the report on the pit people. And he goes.
He's a baby.
And he starts
in
to hand it
this.
to her, and she's the mom from Arrested Development, the president of the
I
university.
don't know her name, but I know exactly who you're talking
and
about.
she died.
Yes.
She's also the mother from Archer. She does the voice in Archer. But anyway, so David Spade's handing her the report. She just grabs it out of his hands as he's saying signed, sealed, and she grabs it and he goes, and snatched rudely. What a surprise. Like, I love that movie, man. And just so many good one-liners in that movie. The Pre-Frosh in that movie, you know what he's from?
No.
The Pre-Frosh, the guy that the movie's technically centered around, he's visiting the campus to decide whether or not he wants to go to college there. He is the son of John Candy in The Great Outdoors. The one that dates the one that dates the Canadian girl during the
Great Outdoors.
Right?
I love that movie. Dan Aykroyd,
Chevy Chase, and then that kid,
bald-headed bear.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And then the guy that got hit by lightning. Seven times. 77 times. In the head. Oh, such a good movie, man.
That was a classic, like slapstick. You
Oh,
know?
yeah. And the best part is when the two wives, Dan Aykroyd and John Candy's wives, are sitting there talking, and they're talking about, sexual stuff. And she's like, oh, have you ever just leaned up against the washing machine during the spin cycle? And John Candy's wife's like, no. And she's like, oh, you should try it sometime. And so later on, they have the huge argument at the very end of the movie. And John Candy doesn't know this conversation happened, And so they're arguing, and the wives kind of get into it, and she goes, why don't you go find yourself a spin cycle? And John Candy goes, yeah, find yourself a spin cycle. And he turns to his wife, and he goes, what the hell does that mean?
You remember he eats that giant steak?
Oh, yeah. There's a gaffe in the movie. There's a mistake that they made in the movie. So when they come home from eating the steak, the raccoons had gotten into their trash because they had put all the trash in the house to keep the raccoons out of it. Well, the raccoons got in the house, then got in all the trash.
Yeah.
So when he comes in, that makes him sick. They come in and all the trash is all over the house and it makes him throw up. Well, the best part is they all run out at the same time, but you can still see Dan Aykroyd on the edge of the screen. He's not supposed to be seen, and he's counting for them all to come running back in. So
I didn't know that.
You can see him count 1, 2, 3, then they all run back in.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny. So it's like the stormtrooper that hits his head in Star Wars. You know,
and then they added the noise later on, which I think's funny.
You just have to watch that scene when they come home back to the cabin after the steak scene. They all go into the go out of the kitchen and then John Candy gets sick, and you can see Dan Aykroyd counting in the background for them all to run back in. It's pretty
That's funny.
Yeah. And I don't know that that's actually listed anywhere. I just caught it one time, and when I caught it, the first few times I'd ever seen it was on a 4x3 TV. Mm-hmm. And then when they went to a 16:9 version,
the widescreen, you saw it?
It was in the screen. And it was almost like
it's funny.
They didn't catch it until it got to widescreen. But, by that point, that scene, what are you going to do? So
I used to love catching things like that in movies that were
so good.
Yeah.
God, we have derailed totally.
I know.
But you know what? It just makes me, so this is, I told Tyler this. We got our patio up and ready out back. I want to get the projector out there.
Oh, yeah, it's a great idea.
And we get a few of us together, have a guy's night, just sit out there.
Do a movie out there?
Drink cigars. Drink some bourbon. Tyler, if he wants to smoke cigars, whatever. And we watch a movie or two and just sit out there. Maybe Trina goes and has a girls' night that night, and I just sit out there and watch
that sounds great, man.
So we got to figure that out when that's going to happen. And I don't care what day it is. It could be it has to be a weekend, I guess, for you.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't get dark till freaking 9 o'clock when it's summer.
So it'll have to be like a Friday or a Saturday for you, I guess. But that's what I'd like to do. So anyway, so let's rank these just kind of real quick. Obviously, the 94 proof is in a different realm because it's 94 proof, but
for me, they kind of got better as we went. So like the one that we just did, the Bourbon Enthusiast, was my favorite. And then from there was the Mash and Drum, or Mash and Journey, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then just the regular C90.
C920.
C920. Shit.
Yeah, and I always wonder, like, does the order matter? If we would have done Mash and Journey second, would it have been better?
I don't know. This one was so, like, when I had it last night, I was like, oh, man, this is really complex. Yeah. There's a lot of flavors in here.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's unique.
And it's frustrating, too, because I've had a ton of stuff from Mash and Journey that I've just absolutely loved. But the last 2 weeks we've done Mash and Journey against Bourbon Enthusiast, and both of his picks from Bourbon Enthusiast have won.
Yeah.
But again, they're both great. So, like, it's nothing against Mash and Journey. I love a lot of my Mash and Journey picks.
Same.
And one of the things that I love about the Mash and Journey picks is they'll do some stuff that you don't normally see. Like, we're doing Elijah Craig. We did Lux Row last week. But they do some stuff that you just don't see in Ohio at all. They'll do some like off-brand, picks. Like, what was the one that he gave you?
The King of Kentucky?
No, it was just King, I think.
King, something like that. Barrel King
or something.
Barrel King. Oh my God, that thing's like maple syrup.
Something I've never even heard of.
Same.
And so there were 2 picks of that. You had one. He gave you a bottle.
Yeah.
And he gave me a taste of both of them, and they were both ridiculous.
Yes, they were. Oh my God.
Yeah, he gave me like a sample bottle of each, like a 4-ounce sample bottle of each, and I went through them so fast. But like he's always just doing new stuff, and I know that for James this is almost like his business, so he tries to stay on stuff that's going to definitely sell. But he'll do some things like that's how I found Taconic was through James and Bourbon Enthusiast.
Oh, I forgot I have a Taconic in the basement.
Yeah, so my Bourbon Enthusiast experience has been amazing. That's what got me into. So I joined him in breaking bourbon at the same time. Could not stand breaking bourbon's palate. Their palate for me was terrible. I know other people loved it because I saw their posts and stuff. I just didn't like it. But for me, Bourbon Enthusiast, his palate is outstanding. I generally line up with his. And then Mash and Journey, when we started doing stuff with Jason, he announced his. I was like, I tend to like his.
Yeah, my palate aligns with Jason's pretty well. He likes viscosity and stuff as well.
And finish. He likes viscosity and finish. And so I started into his club, and I've gotten so many good picks from him, that as long as I can financially, I will stay members of both of theirs.
Same. Yeah, same.
So, I mean, if you're looking to join a good club, the best I can tell you is for us, those two are great. Mm-hmm. But everyone's got their own palate, so you might not align with theirs. You might align with Breaking Bourbon.
Yeah, and
you might align with Fred Minnick's. You might align with whoever. But there's some good clubs out there that you can join. What were you going to say?
Oh no, sometimes you just have to join a club and then get a couple bottles and be like, oh, this aligns with me, this doesn't,
right?
And just go from there.
And generally speaking, there's always going to be, like, Jason's had some picks I didn't align with. James has too, but for the most part. You want to find it where you're like 80% of the time, lining
absolutely.
up with them. And I think, and I just threw that number out there, but
I know what you mean though. Like, but the majority
of the time, you want to align with them, and you don't always have to pick something. You can pass. I've passed on some of Jason's just because of financial reasons. There were a couple times, like when we were having to put down banks. I mean, that cost some money, and I had to pass on 3 or 4 picks of his during that time because we were treating him for cancer. We were, taking him for his ACL. And so I missed like 3 or 4 of the picks of his that I really, really wanted. Mm-hmm. And I also missed a Middle West Spirits barrel release too that I had signed up for their finished series. The barrel strengths. So that was disappointing, but I mean.
You have enough supply. You'll be okay.
No, it's not even that.
I know what you mean.
The life, Banks. Banks.
I know.
He comes first.
I know.
As much as I love bourbon, Banks is family.
I know. And like, I don't want to get like in a sad moment when I like first walked in the other day. Like, I'm used to being greeted by the both of them.
I know.
And I was like, it's.
I mean, Bella tries to make up for it.
She does. She's like a cat.
She's a little overzealous with her greeting.
Yeah.
But and what's funny, and I think I may have said this on the last episode, but Trina bought me for my birthday a little portrait thing. She bought.
I love that thing. Yeah.
And it came the day we found out Banks had cancer.
Yeah.
So like that's always going to have that little spot in my memory. But that's not. Trina was like so mad about that. I'm like, no, I said, that's actually not, I mean, right now it stings, but like in a year, in 2 years, when I remember, that came on the day we found out that's always going to mean something to me.
Yeah.
I know it was a birthday present, but it didn't come on my birthday. It came like, I don't know, like the 27th or something.
It's like a great portrait. Like, I know it's not a picture, like it's a painting type thing, but it's great.
The only bad thing about it is they look the same height because they took 2 separate pictures and combined them. And
Banks is way bigger
than Bella, but they look the same height in the picture. Like Banks, his head. But if you look at their faces, holy shit, it captures their facial
expressions, their eyebrows. Is what Banks, it is. Their eyebrows are fucking great.
Because Bella's eyebrows are always like, "Hey, what's going on?" And Banks's eyebrows are like, "Hey,
right,
what's going on?" Like he was like Eeyore. He came off like Eeyore.
Yeah,
because he just didn't show a lot of emotion. But you could tell, like, he loved being down here with us. And he loved, like...
being around people and being social.
When I was working down here, he laid... His dog bed laid right there. And he'd lay with me every day while I was working. He would just lay there.
Bella won't come downstairs.
She won't. She did during COVID. We would come down here and watch TV. Like, I remember we started binging Shameless.
Yeah.
And she would come down and sit right here on this couch. Trina would sit there. I would sit here, and Bella would sit here. And then Banks would lay on the floor down here. And now she just won't come down here anymore. She hasn't come down here for probably a year. And like when I make her come down, you can tell she just I don't know if something happened to her down here, but she doesn't like to be down here.
And she'll go upstairs though, right?
Yeah, she goes upstairs.
So it's not the stairs necessarily.
No, because she goes upstairs. So like we take her out at night at like 8 o'clock at night, and she'll go upstairs as soon as she comes in the door.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, I'll take her outside, feed her, give her water, take her out again so she can poop, because she usually doesn't poop the first time. She'll poop after she eats because I think she's too excited to eat. And then after she does that, she'll go back upstairs again.
Huh.
And she'll lay up there.
It's definitely not the stairs, yeah.
Like if Trina has a late start day or I have a late start day or whatever, she'll lay up there until one of us comes back downstairs. And then she'll just sit on the first floor for the rest of the day. But she won't come down.
She loves
here.
that dog bed on the first floor.
Oh,
She's always right there behind the couch.
Yeah,
well,
that's where her crate was.
Yeah.
When we crate trained her, that's where the crate was.
Yeah.
So I think that's her spot.
It's her spot for sure.
Yeah. It just doesn't have the crate there. So 6:05. I don't know if you need to get going. So
probably here in just a minute. Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you. I think
The Bourbon Enthusiast.
Then Mash and Journey, then C920, then the 94 proof is just, it's really good, but it's just, for me, they're
just different tiers.
Yeah, I think we all tend to, on our show here, tend to lean toward the barrel proof side of things, to some degree anyway. So that one just, I would drink that in a heartbeat. On a regular night, a night outside, if you're going somewhere, you just want to take something and have something less, less potent that you're drinking. That would be a good one to fall back to. And you know what I've been drinking a lot of lately is Buffalo Trace. Yeah, I need to just start diving into my Elijah Craig again, my regular small batch stuff, because I've got like 4 or 5 bottles of it, like 3 barrel picks in a regular bottle.
I've been going through some stuff too. Like I have a bunch of those Weller Special Reserves.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to go through those and kind of get rid of some of them.
Yeah, I've got 1 Special Reserve, 1 Antique right now that I'm just milking because I don't want to get through them.
Right.
I haven't gone out to hunt them.
I haven't either. No.
I told myself I was going to do it today, and I didn't. I told myself I was going to do it yesterday, and I didn't. And I keep getting distracted by other stuff at work and things like that. So
life happens.
It does. All right, man. Well, I've got to hurry up and turn this around and get it out because it's supposed to release tonight. So because we were supposed to record yesterday.
Yeah.
And then hopefully next week we can record 2 so I can have one in the bank.
Should be able to, yeah.
Because I'm going to be going to
Hotlanta.
I'm going to be going to Las Vegas and Toronto all in the span of like 2 weeks. So it's going to make it tough to record. So we need to get it like 3.
Yeah, we can do it double next week.
3 ahead is what we need to do. So.
We can do like an early and like a later next week.
Yeah, and then I need to maybe have a double the week after with us, and then maybe bring like Rudra and Sam or something. So,
okay, cool.
But all right, well, thanks for joining in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. This is a little look into the private barrel versus barrel proof of Elijah Craig. And next week we'll see what we're going to do. One of these times I am going to have to throw an old Forester 100 in that barrel back there and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take out like 3 or 4 samples of it and see how it tastes after a few weeks. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining in. Give us a review on whatever you're listening to, positive only. And we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Thank you for joining in for yet another episode of the Bourbon Hunters. If you like what you hear, please leave us a good rating on Apple, Podbean, Google, or wherever you are listening. It definitely helps us to get great guests on our show. And follow us on Instagram and the Facebooks to keep up to date with what is in our glass. As always, sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet, and enjoy some bourbon.